Fear will eat you. It makes you weak. Kraven the Hunter was directed by J.C. Chandler, who did The Most Violent Year and other projects, and was written by 3 people. Remember that. Remember as I go on about this film, it was written by 3 people. 3. It didn't take one person to do this lavish origin story of a Spider-Man villain. It took 3. Who were the 3 writers? Let's talk about that. I'm not tipping my hand as to how I felt about this film. Let's move on. Richard Wenk, who's done a lot of stuff. Not Richard Wank, even though that would explain quite a bit of the writing in this film. He did the Equalizer trilogy. It might not end up being a trilogy because Antoine Fuqua, that I kept wanting to call Fupa because that's just how I am, said if Denzel Washington wants to do more, fuck it, we'll dust it off and try again. We'll dust it off and don't die again, die again. Bring back the main love interest in the 3rd movie, and I'm totally on board. That being said, let's get back to Kraven the Hunter because 2 more writers have to be mentioned. 2 more people. Art Markham, and, boy, geez, those last 3 letters certainly describe some of the writing in this. I'm fine. I'm totally fine. And Matt Holloway. They did Iron Man. Okay, cool. Not that had the best writing, but it was a success. Men in Black International. Okay, maybe not so much. And Uncharted. Oh, boy. Oh, fucking bliss. 3 people to write this. 3 people to write this. Film is the latest and thankfully last in Sony's Spider-Man villain spin-off, standalone films that they tried to turn into its own universe, intersected Human Centipede together, yet actually not totally connected because they tried to connect Morbius. That didn't work. And then they had Madam Web exist. Madam Web came out earlier this year. That movie felt like a fever dream, and it wasn't any good at all. There's no way it could have been good. And if you thought that was bad, well, Kraven the Hunter is just about as bad. It might possibly be worse. I'm going to say right now, I don't know a ton about a lot of the origin of these, Spider-Man villains. As far as being a superhero fan or a superhero villain fan, I just enjoy entertaining films. Morbius was good to laugh at, but was so goddamn terrible with so much bad CGI and Jared Leto doing whatever the fuck he did. And Madam Web just was a total misfire. And Kraven the Hunter is the last in this now shelved, spin-off thing that Sony decided to do to diminishing returns. Kraven the Hunter will not succeed at the box office. I will be astonished if this movie makes its budget back. And I don't know what its budget is. I would imagine even with the bad CGI and the bad ADR and the fact that they had some stars, well, an alleged star in the lead. But that being said, I will be amazed if it makes its budget back because they should have been released back in October or maybe even December or September, that is. Because releasing it in December as we get Sonic the Hedgehog, yes, this is an R-rated movie, but you have other movies that are going to do better that honestly will appeal to more people. This movie got destroyed when the trailer first dropped. When the first idea came up, and Morbius got destroyed, but even people can entertain the fact that Morbius at least had some meme-worthy potential. Same with Madam Web, but Madam Web is just really bad with everybody sleepwalking through their roles. And then there's Kraven the Hunter. Basically, you have Sergei Kravenov. Boy, God, the originality of these particular people. Such originality, much wow. He would later become Kraven, played by Aaron Taylor Johnson, who better get used to ridicule. Okay, look up Nowhere Boy, look up the director of that, look up Aaron Taylor Johnson's age, and realize that him and the director met on that set. And let me give an idea, the director was not in her 20s, she was in her early 40s. Yeah, they deserve fucking ridicule because guess what? Allegedly, covering my ass here, that is preying upon, that is grooming somebody. I don't care if they're of legal age. That is ridiculous. Man, man, woman, 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 man, animal, vegetable, mineral, I don't care. That being said, Aaron Taylor Johnson also isn't that good of an actor. I'm sorry, he's just fucking not. I've seen him in a couple things where he's fine, but he's in incredible shape in this. Good on him. I guess you have to be in incredible shape to make sure that your cougar girlfriend or wife doesn't turn to dust. Let's get back to the movie. Let's talk about the fact that Fred Heisinger is in this. He was in Thelma. Yeah, the guy that was the grandson in Thelma that was in a really... He's been in other stuff too, but the fact that That's a role that sticks out to me. He's pretty good. And Russell Crowe's in this. Russell Crowe's apparently just taking whatever money is offered to him. And bless him. I'm glad that he's able to tour with his band. He certainly has a unique way of presenting music. And I like Russell Crowe, and I liked him better when he was in better movies. Ariana DeBose, the absolutely insanely gorgeous, more importantly talented, but insanely gorgeous. Good grief. She was in House of Spoils and other stuff, and she needs to make better choices. She plays Calypso. Nikolai is Russell Crowe's character, and then you have Dimitri, played by Fred. Look, this is how much I know about the whole thing, that Kraven is a hunter, the best hunter, that is seemingly invincible, and we find out how that came to be in this movie. It does show in the trailer that basically a vicious lion attacks him, blood from the lion gets in him, but also, do not worry, there is a magic potion that Calypso gets as a child from her grandmother or aunt or passerby that didn't want her to play with some tarot cards and says, here, this is from Papa Legba. I think that's, or Leba? I forget what, Labia. Papa Labia, there we go. He created this potion and it will bring anybody back in mysterious, weird ways. And then the lion just leaves him right there. I'm spoiling a lot of this because it doesn't fucking matter. This is a fucking dog shit movie. So that being said, lion just attacks. We see this in the flashback and then just, drags away. Nikolai is a terrible shot, by the way. He manages to hit that lion 3 times, but apparently not well enough to save his son. He's upset at Dimitri, who is the weaker of the two, but is almost, he's almost somebody that can mimic other people's voices and, adjust to situations and everything and be meek, but also be really good and mimic other singing voices and do stuff. Kind of like some kind of lizard. I mean, you don't even have to know anything about this goddamn superhero to figure out that everything is laid right out in front of you. Anyway, the lion just suddenly leaves Sergei. Okay, I'm done. And Calypso says, well, this looks like a good opportunity. Here, down the gullet. And then he's fine. He's back. He's brought back to Sergei's house. And then takes off for far eastern Russia that looks an awful lot like Africa. Is it that green over in far eastern Russia? I'm genuinely asking because I have never been there, nor do I ever intend to be there. A plot of land that the mother has. The mother apparently met an unfortunate end. This movie deserves to meet a fortunate end. Fortunate so we don't ever have to endure it ever again or any movies like it. And I think the only thing that might beat this as far as shit quality is the Minecraft movie coming out in a few months. I probably jinxed myself and I'll end up liking it. But he ends up becoming this hunter and becoming this grand person. Then he is trying to take down this crime syndicate. That's basically it for your goddamn plot. There's just terrible dubbing in of these various voices and all this terrible, terrible dialogue. There's some lines like, never fear death. They are predators. We are prey. And there's a point or whatever. It's like, where you have Christopher Abbott who plays the foreigner. No, not Informer, not Licky Boom Boom Down. How's that for a reference? He plays a villain that basically can just, if he takes off his shades and looks at you, he can freeze time and he can do all this stuff and he can hypnotize you. Also, there's another villain that ties into Spider-Man's past that I'll leave for the spoilers, but they introduce him in such a shit way. You thought the villain in Madam Web was introduced in a shit way. No, this is so much goddamn worse. So goddamn bafflingly awful. Really, really terrible CGI. Terrible action sequences. And there's no sense of danger, no sense of stakes. And since, it's kind of like Blue Beetle. Since you knew Blue Beetle was one of the last of that particular, spin-off thing that was going on with, I believe, DC or whoever. I'm actually trying to remember who Blue Beetle was tied back into. But the whole point is that Blue Beetle was not going to be part of any ongoing thing. Same with Black Adam, and Dwayne Johnson got upset. But this just ends up proving that Sony basically likes pissing money away. Yeah, they made a fortune with the Spider-Man movies, at least most of them. And this is how they went out. This is how they fucking went. I am actually astonished at just how bad this movie was. And I had no expectations. I expected it to be shit. Within the first, a little bit, especially once the lion attacked. I'm like, oh, we are in so much trouble. And boy, are we ever. Because this was a painful 127-minute long movie. This is just over 2 hours. That's with end credits. Had they cut this down a little bit, it would have been fine. Had they let Ariana DeBose actually act like she can, cool. Had Aaron Taylor Johnson, I don't know, worked on anything other than his fucking abs, it might have been okay. And Russell Crowe, he was collecting a paycheck, let's be perfectly honest. And none of the twists, none of the deals are surprising. None of this shit is any fucking good, and it just ends up being a pile of gruel, just stuff you could try to stuff in your mouth, but you don't really care because you're just going to get sick of it. Really sick of it. I'm going to get into spoilers, so that's your warning. It's in theaters if you want to check it out, or just don't watch it at all. 3, 2, 1, and spoilers. The Rhino. The Rhino's the villain. And the guy playing him isn't bad, but there's this doctor that's referred to that works on people, and he had a weird condition where his skin would get all hard like a rhino and nothing could penetrate it. But he had to have medicine hooked up and everything, and, you know, had like kind of like a, you know, a friggin' like kidney deal, like dialysis or whatever it is. And then he is like the leader of this syndicate of headhunters and, you know, like poachers and stuff like that, and other criminals of various indescript, you know, like presentation. Like, you really don't know who the fuck these people are, nor do you care who the fuck these people are. And Dmitri, it's revealed very early on that he's not happy that Sergei left him. And okay, but then a little bit later we see Nikolai, and we see Dmitri at this particular club that Nikolai happens to own because he's a big old, you know, hunter, crime lord thing, whatever the fuck he is. Super rich. And Dmitri impersonates, you know, particular musicians. And does it so goddamn well. Almost like he's a chameleon, because he's a fucking chameleon, because he's the chameleon that's referenced in Spider-Man lore. Or some kind of lore. Again, so many of these villains blend together. So, while, after being, the biting by the lion and the dragging of Sergei is so hilarious, but once he gets resurrected by this particular potion, he can just climb up and do shit. No exploring his powers, no figuring this stuff out, no trying to do what. Nope, he can just do this shit. He can throw things. He can climb up trees. He can do all that. He can jump high distances. That's it. That's it. That's literally what we get right there, which, fine, okay, maybe you don't need to do an introduction for other characters, or you could at least, I don't know, attempt to, you know, bring people in a little bit easier. Or maybe just cut a few things and stretch that part out, and you could still cut about 20 minutes and we wouldn't miss shit. By the way, the opening of the particular thing, he poses as the prisoner, breaks in and kills some guys running the jail. Some crime lords running this jail. And then he escapes. Oh yes, and Calypso, after resurrecting him, is a lawyer. You know that because she says she's a lawyer. Like, really, I don't think we see her do any lawyer stuff at all. But, thankfully, Ariana DeBose is very attractive because they don't give her character anything worth rooting for, but at least she's good to look at, and at least we know that she can act. Just isn't given a chance to do it here. Again, Uncharted. Same people that did Uncharted, 2 of them. Fucking idiots that can't write anything to save their goddamn lives. I refuse to believe these guys wrote Iron Man. So, yeah, the Rhino is the villain, and when he unplugs himself from his, like, little medicine thing, he turns hard like a rhino. And we don't actually see him turn into the Rhino a little bit later. If you thought the Thing from the unfinished Roger Corman Fantastic Four movie looked bad, even though all things considered it looked alright, he looks worse. This movie was released in 2024, and he looks worse. Oh yes, and after Dmitri gets kidnapped, Sergei has to go on the hunt. He does kill people, and look, the violence might mean something, except not really. Quite a bit of the violence happens off screen, and I just find it so fucking funny that lion just dropped him and said, yeah, I'm done, he's dead, I could eat him, but no, I'm good. And he does find Calypso and finds ways to, hey, here's this list. Can you help me out and everything? He doesn't really need her help, but he brings her into his plan anyway because, we need somebody there. But yes, none of this really matters. We get the foreigner, who was the hitman's pupil, and you remember who the hitman was. They reference it very briefly in the goddamn article. Like literally, it's like a split second, you'll miss it article thing. So don't look down at your phone because you'll probably be fully asleep before you get to that point. Nevertheless, Nikolai will not pay for his son's his son Dmitri being free. Well, his pseudo son. By the way, no familial, unity at all. I mean, Nikolai is just this asshole. But again, Russell Crowe, who is a tremendous actor, is just sleepwalking through this whole damn thing. And essentially, by the time he rescues or tries to rescue Dmitri, the foreigner has this idea of this one flower that grows in this particular region, and it could be a poison. It could make you hallucinate and have nightmares, and then shut your body down. And then you can do what you want with them. And he's able to take off his glasses and do all this stuff and everything, and do all this moving because everybody's just frozen in fear or stupidity. He manages to get Kraven down and almost has him taken care of. And a little bit earlier, Calypso reveals that she actually was very good with an arrow because she had to learn that when they were in Ghana. I think it was Ghana, West Africa. And then he's about to kill him, and then, he would always say 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and then that's 3, bitch, or something like that. She gets him in the eye with an arrow. So he's dead. At least Christopher Abbott seemed like he was having some fun with the whole thing, but that didn't really go much of anywhere. So then they have to go find the rhino. By the way, there were oxen a little bit earlier when Sergei was going to his mom's land, and one oxen looked at him. And you knew that was going to factor into the finish. So he summoned some oxen to do this rampage thing, and then they circle like it's the wagons in the Old West. Then he battles the rhino, and he's not able to really kill him until he realizes he's got the little thing for his medicine and stabs him right there. And then he's like, who showed you the tape of me to show you? Because that's how they found out that he was Kraven the Hunter, is they got to show a tape. If you don't know, then you can't figure out what's right in front of you. It was the dad. The dad did that because the dad needed to take down the rhino, but he wasn't capable of it. And now everything's saved. Dmitri wanted to shoot the rhino, but that's not him. But Kraven ended up killing him because why not? And then he ends up meeting his dad. He being Sergei / Kraven. And then he tells Nikolai, no, I'm not going to do anything to you. And because he can commune with nature, he can summon nature. A bear suddenly attacks Nikolai and kills him. And then he's talking to Dmitri sometime later, and Dmitri's got got the bar back together, the club back together, and all this stuff's going on. Because the doctor that did the experiments, like on the rhino and stuff like that, or maybe even Doc Ock. The whole point is, Dmitri is running the crime syndicate now, and talks about, well, you talk about all this, but, I've always been a chameleon, and then he changes a few appearances, and then shows that, and he unleashed my true power and all that, and that's literally how it ends. That's how it ends. That's how the fucking movie ends. You want to end on a cliffhanger thinking that anybody, even if this is going to continue on, want to see Kraven the Hunter 2 Electric. Why the fuck did you make the first one Boogaloo? F. It gets an F. I don't care if this is well described because the movie's an incoherent, sloppy mess. So, agree, disagree, what I said, like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, and Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Renthlan. If this isn't one of the worst films of the year, boy, it's been a rough year. See you soon.